Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to our today's webinar, The Next Era Women Shaping the Workplace. First, for those of you that may not know me, allow me to introduce myself. I am Julina Can, a partner and the Chief Futurist of Management Strategies. I lead the Futures Council, and so that's my main representation today. So we are from Management Strategies. Our purpose is to transform people and organizations so that together we transform society, and we activate that through our core areas, at the center of which is culture. And with that, I'll turn you over to Miggy as he introduces himself and as he starts us off today.
Thank you so much, Joss, and good afternoon to everyone here. So I'm Miggy. I'll be the moderator for today's session. I will not be a speaker, but I will be your moderator. I am not a woman, but I have been raised by the most powerful women that I know, also molded into the consultant that I am by some of the most powerful women you see in this room as well. And so I am an ally, and this is something that I'm glad to be a part of. So no matter what gender we represent today, this is either we're women, but we're also allies for each other in this room. So that's who I am, and I'll be just my role is to ask the questions to make sure your questions are answered throughout our 1 hour that we'll be together today. So with that, let's kick things off. We will show you a quick Slido question. So if you have either a phone with you, you can scan the QR code at the top left corner of the screen. And this is just a quick and fun question that we have prepared for you. So if you could wave your magic wand for equality and inclusion, what would you wish for? Right. So right now we're seeing Universal Respect Translator as the top answer, tied with the Opportunity Orchestrator. All right, keep them coming.
We also see Glass Ceiling Shatterer now. How about you, Miggy? What would it be for you?
My role as an ally, I think, would be the empathy enhancer, just fostering understanding and compassion across the board for our clients, for the people I work with, fellow men. So I'd love the opportunity to mansplain to them how inclusion is very important in the workplace. How about you, Jots?
Me, I would go with safety shield.
Hmm?
I think creating spaces without fear of judgment is very important. Like as much as possible, that's the role I play as an HR professional. I try to create safe and inclusive spaces, and hopefully everyone has that space for them.
Thank you, Jules. And I think the poll is up and complete. We have a tie between the empathy enhancer and the opportunity orchestrator, but all superpowers here have been selected at least once. So we have, I think, Jules, this is you, the safety shield, and then a few other glass ceiling shatterer, universal respect translator. So keep this in mind, and hopefully, as we listen to our panelists, you will pick up how all of these can be achieved through what we do and with very intentional work, right? So we won't keep you waiting any longer. I think it's time now to introduce the panelists we've invited for you today.
Yes. And the first panelist that we want to introduce is my really good friend, Karen Batungbacal. She's an independent director, angel investor, advisory boards, and a partner in CEO Advisors. I do want to share, she doesn't like it when I say this, but I'll say it anyway. She's actually the mother of the BPO industry, just so you know. Because one of the first BPOs was actually started by Karen. So, and we know the impact that the BPO industry has had in the Philippines. So I'm so happy for her to be here today. I'm excited to hear what she'll be sharing.
Yep. Talk about glass shattering powerful women, right? Thank you. And welcome, Karen. I'll have the pleasure of introducing our second panelist. I've heard so much about her. It's the first time I'm meeting her, actually. Her name is Melissa, and she's a board advisor and senior marketing leader who has led regional and global teams in Fortune 500 firms in Asia, Europe over the last, sabihin ko ba yung years, over 30 years already here. And she's also an integral coach with a master's in business administration from Emory University. And in her work, she's transformed brands, products, and businesses using the power of data strategy and insights around the globe. And she has the proven ability to build and grow teams that collaborate and execute successfully across borders. So please join us in giving a warm round of applause to our panelists, Karen and Melissa.
Yay. Thank you. Also with us today, we also have members of the Futures Council. In certain questions, we will be calling on the Futures Council to share some data, some insights to help us as we go through this. And so, with that, take it away, Miggy.
So there are a few questions we prepared for our panel here for Karen and Melissa. The first one is really all about balancing, the great balancing act, right? We all know that women are, when they reshape the modern workplace, it's important to effectively manage and balance everything that you do, more than your professional role, your personal lives, and it's often called the great balancing act. So my first question I want to throw, by the way, for the audience, if you have other questions and follow-ups, please type in the chat. It's my role to capture it and put it forward for our panelists. So our question, Melissa and Karen, would be, how have you been able to balance your professional and personal lives throughout your careers? What has been the secret for you? And let us know who would like to begin. All right, let's
I can
start. Go ahead,
start.
Karen. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you, Miggy. First, when that word balance, I don't believe in balance. It's misleading.
Mhm.
It actually, when I hear balance, it makes me tense because it feels like you have to have everything on par with each other. So I don't think that happens, because as women, well, as for myself, I'll speak for myself. I was always constantly juggling amongst a number of things, right? My work, my family, my children, my friends, my personal time. So I believe it's always in flux. But you can do it if you work with deliberate intention. You have to set parameters. I was a single mom for most of my career with 2 young children, and then the 2 became 3. So first is I made sacred covenants with my family. I told my children that I would be there 90% of the time. Same thing I did with the companies I was working for and with, that I would be there 90% of the time. I was also very transparent with my teams, my direct reports, that I didn't have the ability to, go drinking after work and form personal bonds that way, because I focused on my work. Of course, we did fun things at times during the workday, but I needed to get straight home to my children, being a single mom. But what really helped me was my support system, which included a fantastic EA. So I was very lucky I had an EA, an executive assistant, worked for me for over 14 years across 3 different companies. And if somebody wanted to hire me, it was buy one, take one. Because I would tell them that you had to hire this lady because she was my work wife. And they knew that when they hired this lady, about 40% of her time would be managing my personal life, whether it was my children, paying the bills, insurance, but whatever it was. I had the same thing with my trusted Yaya at home, who was almost like family. Jolina mentioned that I was, at the start of the BPO industry, I was there. So for the first 5-6 years, I was the president, I was the co-creator of what is called IBPAP now. It took so much travel. Because I was gone at least 50% of the time and I had young children, I had to give my Yaya a credit card and empower her. The only thing that she rebelled against is when I wanted to teach her how to drive. She said that was it, no more. Credit card, hanggang credit card. But lastly, I think I also thank, the universe up there, God. He gave me children that were mostly self-sufficient since I wasn't around. I didn't know their exam schedules. They did very well on their own because I wasn't around. But I think you need to create that support structure, because you definitely can't do it alone. Doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, you can't do it alone. Thank you.
Karen, it's really interesting that you said you don't believe in balance, because I was going to say the exact same thing. Right? Because I do believe that there should be life outside of work. I don't think it should just become one thing. I mean, you should enjoy your work, but you should also live your life, right? So I really struggled with this work-life balance, because it seemed like, is it really true? And the word balance implies it's 50-50. You feel like, if you don't achieve it, it feels like you're failing. Why is that so? So I really thought about it, and it feels like you're always walking on a tightrope, and that image feels like whoever's trying to walk that tightrope is going to fall. And I think work-life balance as a concept is something that makes you tense, as you were saying, Karen. And in fact, it just creates a tension that somehow you're working na nga, and you're still failing at life. So I started to think about, how is it that I create alignment in my life? And in doing that, creating alignment means, how do I set myself up for success? In doing that, it's about prioritizing. How do I allocate time so that I'm fully focused in every part of my life, so that I'm enjoying and I'm allocating time so I'm present in every part, and I'm also successful, right? So I want to be, I'm not checking email and texts when I'm with my partner or with my parents and my brothers and sisters. That I'm listening to them, right? That when I'm doing my sports activities, I'm not naman checking on my friends. That if they're telling me stories, I'm actually not, just one ear to them and another ear because checking my work emails, because that's not also a functional life. So I really thought, okay, what does it take? It doesn't mean 2 phones. It means 1 phone. And it means setting a time for when those emails come in, and at least when should I pay attention to my work emails. And that also means I shouldn't write emails to my staff at midnight, because that signals to them that they're stressed out. So it really made me think about how I operate as an individual. So actually, when I started to work in Singapore, I told myself, when I leave work and close my computer after 6:37, I'm gonna have a nice dinner. I may have dinner with my work friends, but we're not gonna talk about work. They're now my friends. They're not work buddies, but they're my friends. And we started to make that separation, and we really started to enjoy. And work quality improved because we were focused on work, and life quality improved because we were focused on life. So it was really possible. And I think that kind of allocation in my mind really improved my way of being, and my way of being a better friend, better person. I was much more relaxed. I also had less seizures. I have epilepsy, and I suffered when I couldn't take away my work from my life. So that really improved my quality of life when I could separate work and life.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. I've been taking down so many notes from both Karen and Melissa. Jules, anything to add
Yeah.
here?
No, I just want to say what I picked up from both Karen and Melissa. It's very I remember in one of the companies where Karen and I were together, there was a concept called Be Here Now. And I really feel like that was a common thread for both Melissa and Karen, that um wherever you are, you're there, fully present.
Mhm.
And I think that's what allows us for really to be fully engaged, to do as best as we can. Because if we're distracted, we're actually not doing anything. But just being fully engaged allows you actually to be there. And I take that as a learning, especially. I'm reminded of that learning after hearing from Melissa and Karen. And I do want to hear also from our Futures Council. So thinking about the next era, specifically talking about this great balancing act, I'd like to ask Elmo to share, one of our professional futurists, also the lead researcher for management strategies. What is research telling us about women navigating the balancing act, Elmo?
Right. And so I'm glad that Melissa and Karen brought this out, because it's really not about balance, it's about integration. And so what we found out in our research is that women are pursuing work-life integration. So they're looking for roles and work.
Couldn't take away my work from my life. So that really improved my quality of life when I could separate work and life.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. I've been taking down so many notes from both Karen and Melissa. Jules, anything to add
Yeah.
here?
No, I just want to say what I picked up from both Karen and Melissa. It's very I remember in one of the companies where Karen and I were together, there was a concept called Be Here Now. And I really feel like that was a common thread for both Melissa and Karen, that wherever you are, you're there, fully present.
Mhm.
And I think that's what allows us for really to be fully engaged, to do as best as we can. Because if we're distracted, we're actually not doing anything. But just being fully engaged allows you actually to be there. And I take that as a learning, especially. I'm reminded of that learning after hearing from Melissa and Karen. And I do want to hear also from our Futures Council. So thinking about the next era, specifically talking about this great balancing act, I'd like to ask Elmo to share, one of our professional futurists, also the lead researcher for management strategies. What is research telling us about women navigating the balancing act, Elmo?
Right. And so I'm glad that Melissa and Karen brought this out, because it's really not about balance, it's about integration. And so what we found out in our research is that women are pursuing work-life integration. So they're looking for roles and work that would allow them to have this. And an interesting fact, in May of last year, there was a TikToker named Gabriela Judge who coined the word lazy girl jobs. And it's not about being lazy. If you Google that word, you'll find a whole conversation around it. But it's about being able to put in less hours, being able to prioritize things, but yet still be able to earn comfortable, be financially rewarded by it. And so if you unpack that a little bit, it tells you two things. It tells you that women today and in the future are looking for flexibility in order to have that work-life integration. And the other thing that is telling us about this work, lazy girl jobs, is about finding meaningful work. And so with this phenomenon, we see that women are redefining success in the workplace. It's no longer about climbing the corporate ladder, but it's really prioritizing that work-life integration.
Thank you so much, Elmo. And you know what? Thinking of it from an organization perspective, it's no longer about career paths, but life paths. How are we enabling our employees to have the lives that they actually would want to have. And so
Yeah.
that's an important thing. So Miggy, what is our next question?
And thank you for mentioning that, right? Because I think coming from this learning insight, how we're seeking alignment, integration of our roles into the different hats that we wear, how now do we shape the workplace? So for both Karen and Melissa, I think we'll start with Melissa this time, just to be fair, because we have two questions, and then we'll switch it up, right? Both of you have been leaders in your respective fields, have experienced a lot of success. You've shaped them with a lot of intention and purpose. And we can imagine how many barriers of inequality and glass ceilings you've shattered along the way, no? But I think the question we wanted to ask is, what advice do you have for women to for them to be able to shape the workplace just as you did and make an impact in their chosen fields?
I think for me, Miggy, first, I never thought about me as a woman or me as a Filipino. I just thought I needed to be excellent, right? To always strive for excellence in whatever I did. And this, I think, was like a guiding thought. And to always, and this has to be like, to always do your best, whether it's to deliver on time, to deliver, whether it's a small piece of research, because I started in market research and now I'm heading employer brand marketing. So, you never know where your career can take you. So you have to have this curiosity and belief that you can do a lot of things. You can never put yourself narrowly, but you should always do your best and think about what you can learn. So if you have this learning mindset, you have the ability to grow and grow into any role. And if you have that energy and desire, the universe will come up to meet you in that, right? So that's one thing, right? To never make yourself feel small na because you're a woman or because you're Pinoy. There's no such thing. There's no limit naman eh. So it's really, what is it that you want to learn, and pursue it with passion. The second thing is have an open ear and really listen, because I think a lot of times we walk into a room and we already have an answer to the questions we want to hear. But if we really listen, sometimes we have an ability to really widen our perspective, and maybe we'll hear an answer that we didn't even expect, and maybe we'll be thrown into another direction. So for example, when I was in Singapore, I wanted to, at some point, I thought I wanted to take my career into another direction. I wanted to potentially move to London, because I thought maybe that's the new area. And then the headhunter said, well, what about would you like to interview, let's say, in Switzerland? I never thought I would get into Switzerland, but I just listened to that opportunity and I leapt at it. And now it's been 8 years. It's amazing, right? So it's being just open. And the third thing is you have to be your own advocate. No HR manager, no boss will know what you're capable of. They're not going to manage your career. You have to be your own advocate. You need to write your own story. No boss is going to do that for you. There will be people who will mentor you, but you need to be the one who knows your strengths, knows be self-aware, and know who can help you. Because if you rely on your boss or rely on HR, you're going to be reactive and you're just going to wait. But if you are the one who advocates for yourself and creates your brand story, you're going to go much further. And you never know what opportunities will open up for you when you talk to other people and tell them what it is that you're willing to work for. So those three things: strive for excellence and be open, listen, and third, be your own advocate.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing that. And I love how you contextualize that the reality that all of us are facing today is that we are living in a world that's non-linear. We never know where life or our careers will take us. And for us to succeed in those, it's just pursuing excellence in no matter what you do, right? And also, I love what you said about never make yourself feel small, because it starts there. How you perceive yourself, how you feel about yourself, and making your own story. It really, thank you so much. Karen, how about you?
Yeah, so again, I also jotted a lot of notes because many things that Melissa said resonated with me. Not that I particularly wrote it down, and not that I particularly experienced that, like being my own advocate. I'm actually quite terrible at being my own advocate. I guess I was very lucky in my career that because I worked hard, that first point that Melissa made, because I worked very hard to do the best at whatever job I was given. When opportunity came about, my name was put out there, and I was prepared when opportunity knocked, which is wonderful. So, but what is my advice for women to shape the workplace? That was your question, right? The first thing I believe is you need to get involved, because no one can make an impact unless you're involved, and you can't make your voice heard unless you're involved. So what do I mean by get involved? It's not just at work. That's a given. That's table stakes. You have to work hard at whatever is your paying job, but do more. If you're just going to do the bare minimum, then you're not going to be visible. So whether it's volunteering at your company for other employee network groups, or it's volunteering in your church, it's volunteering in your community, whatever it is, volunteer. Work hard. I do not believe that we have the luxury to be bystanders in life, because this is the only life we have. And we saw with the pandemic how short it can be. The second one is we need to walk the talk. If we want to change the workplace, we have to demonstrate that by doing. We have to manage teams as we want to be managed. We have to hire people who are also consistent with our value set. So unless we can demonstrate and we live it, we can't ask other people to buy into it. The third one is kind of interesting because it's not a given. And that is, we need to support other women. You know, interestingly enough, maybe it was just a coincidence, but my best managers, bosses, leaders were men. They believed in me, they saw things in me, they pushed me, they promoted me, and many of them continue to stay as good friends or mentors. I had 2 women bosses, 2 women managers in my life, and they were, unfortunately, and I hope again it was coincidental, it was disastrous. So, you know, we think about what Madeleine Albright, the former US Secretary of State, who's passed away now, right? She said that there's a special place in hell for women who do not help other women. And I truly believe that. So me, myself, okay, did I walk the talk? Maybe not as intentionally, but I'm so proud that 3 women managers worked for me. Oh gosh, a long time ago. I hired them in the mid-90s to be my managers when we were starting up a telco for the Lopez Group, which became Buy-and-Tel. And then they ran Sky Cable, ABM. They were my managers doing customer service for all these companies. And also we created, as Jolina said, one of the first Philippine call center companies in 2000, Customer Contact Center, CQ. Well, now 3 of these women managers, one is the country head of JP Morgan Chase. That was my old role a dozen years ago. She is now the country head. I love it. Second one is the country head of Sagility, which is the healthcare spinoff from HGS for those who come from the BPO sector. So HGS is important because they were the ones who bought the company that I created for the Lopez Group. One of the reasons why I had to leave is we were bought out. So she headed Sagility with over 30,000 people in healthcare. And the last is running a tech, a internal tech for a company called, a large conglomerate called DTCC. So, you know, when we get together, I'm so proud that these women, that I was instrumental, or maybe not instrumental, I was participative in their ability now to be heading different companies. In terms of supporting other women, I'm part of a group called FCC. So this is when I say get involved. Filipinas CEO Circle, I love it. I believe we need to network. So we created this Filipinas CEO Network 10 years ago, and it's for women who climb the corporate ladder. So yes, I think we mentioned that it isn't, I don't know if Miggy, if it was you or it was Melissa who said, I don't know, the futurists who talked about maybe not exactly career path, but you know, here at FCC, the reason we're here is we want more women to target the C-level, the highest ranks in the companies, because women in the Philippines are mostly at par with men, all the way up to senior management roles. But 10% or less of the Philippines' top 1,000 corporations are run by women. Why? So that's what FCC is going to try to address. Why, right? And then learn. So many opportunities now that weren't there during my time. You have all these MOOCs. You have the way that you can learn. You can join these webinars of management strategies, because you have to keep relevant. And lastly, and I'll stop talking, is I believe we have to keep our feminine. No need at all that we have to replicate men and how they work and manage. Work is their life. Well, a lot of men can do that because they have wives who run the rest of their lives.
Exactly.
But we can. And in the feminine part of men and women, it's so wonderful. Our intuition, our focus on relationships, our focus on consensus building. You know, these are important to women. Our ability to network and discuss problems very openly. Sometimes, you know, that's not the male part of our personality. So we have to keep the feminine. So I believe in that. Okay, those are my tips for our advice for women. If they want to shape the workplace, they have to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. So for men like me who are listening, listen up and don't forget those lessons. Those are very important as well. Jules, what do our future councils have to share with us?
Yes. But before I call on our future council, I just want to say one thing. Karen, for some reason, my experience has also been like my male bosses are the ones that have actually looked out for me. And I remember, you know, you were talking about sometimes there's this confidence gap, right? Where we don't think that we can do things. And for some reason, I had a boss who basically asked me, you know what, you can actually go higher than what you think you can do. And that challenged me. And I think again, to the men here, not just the men, but the women as well, we need to help each other to challenge ourselves on what we can actually do. And yes, for the men to give us that confidence that we need, because that really helped me. And so it's both the advocating for each other and advocating for ourselves, as both Melissa and Karen have said. Now, over to our Futures Council, because we also found research that's connected to this. And so we'll hear from Pam, one of our professional futurists. The question is, in the next era, what insights can we get from research on how women can shape the workplace?
Thank you also, Melissa and Karen. As you were speaking, it was as if you were sharing the research already that we have found in our work in the Futures Council. All I have to do is actually echo it a little bit more. I'd like to touch on, especially what you said, Karen, on women supporting other women. And there are two ways that we have seen how women can actually shape the workplace by supporting other women. And I to learn more about your organization, but for now, the research shows us that first way to be shaping the workplace and helping other women and advocating for other women is to see how we can reduce the generational gap, give more collaboration and support, bridging those generational gaps, fostering collaboration in the workplace, and we can leverage those different experiences. Actually, like you said, it doesn't really have to be women and women. It can actually be amongst men and women alike, right? So this is what our research from Forbes has shared with us. And even in the same line of thinking of women supporting women, this for me is personal, addressing workplace inequities. Because this is real life experience for me today, and I'm practicing this where I am today. And the research shows us that there are still biases towards women's experience, even when it comes to their personal hygiene, menstruation, some biases against that. Gender pay, of course, is a common discussion. When women ask for work-life hybrid work arrangements, there are some biases against it. So advocating for women, making those changes in the workplace, bringing in policies is one solid way that women can definitely shape the workplace in the future. And finally, I'd like to tap on what Melissa said. I love what Melissa said, that it's not really about thinking that you're a woman. I can resonate to that all my life. I've never thought of myself as a woman in the workplace. I'm just me, right? So, but doing your best, and what Karen also said resonated with me too, and the research shows that too. You go outside the workplace. You bring yourself to be more involved even outside the workplace. And by expanding yourself, that becomes now you walking the talk. And other women can now see you as their example. And our research shows us and confirms that those ways of shaping the workplace as well. So thank you so much, Karen and Melissa, for sharing those insights with us.
Thanks so much, Pam, for sharing that as well. This is something very close to our hearts. We do want to help become an ally for not just women, but for different identities in the workplace, right? So before we start ending, there are a few questions that we'd love to go through in the chat box. There's a couple here. One is from Ran. And so Ran's question is, what are some unexpected challenges you experienced after you've quote unquote made your mark? So anyone can answer, just let me know. What are some unexpected challenges you experienced after you've made your mark or reached a certain position?
So when you say you've made your mark, you've never really made your mark. I think it's important to know this, because you're only as good as your last role. You're only as good as your last project. Like, I don't think there's ever anything that tells you you've made your mark, you rest on your laurels. That never happens. I think that's for me, because I think you have to be on your toes. And there's always going to be somebody who's going to try to challenge you. But I think you have to know what your value is. And there's going to be somebody who's going to try to put you in your place. And so I think it's important for you to always know, whether you're a woman, you're a man, whatever you are, whatever you identify as, to kind of feel that you've earned your place at the table. That's what I mean about advocating. Advocating is not being mayabang. It's knowing who you are.
I guess now I presume I'm much older than Melissa. And so I'm at a different stage in my career. I've retired from corporate life, and I'm from executive roles in corporate life, and I'm doing other things now. And I guess the challenge there is, if you've been something for 30 years, which is a corporate executive, and maybe the last 20 years being CEOs of various multinationals, and now trying to hustle for different roles. It's like Melissa said, you're as good as your last job. It's interesting that some people who know me, I guess the opportunities there, it's not just going after things. Now my challenge is, and Jolina knows a bit of this because she's been offering to help me quite a bit, is determine, what do I really want to do in this next stage of my life? Because when I laid out my plans, they haven't eventuated the way I expected them to. So I'm going with the flow. So I guess the challenge is learning how to deal with change and being flexible. I'm very happy though. The good thing is I'm not starving, and I still have wonderful board roles and advocacies, but it's not what I envisaged years back. So I guess the challenge is not to so chart your course, to be so rigid in what you think is your next step and plan your life so down to the last dot, because they always say, right, the best laid plans of mice and men. I mean, the universe knows better what you need. So that's where I am right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. And again, thank you, Melissa, for that wonderful insight. We're down to our last few minutes, but there's a question here that got a lot of reactions. I think it's because there's a lot of audience with the same profile here in this room. So the question is, what advice would you give to women in their mid to late 20s who work and have to juggle a lot of things in life, from single moms to women who feel lost or exhausted in their love life or personal life in general? Okay, we're entering love advice territory. So go ahead. Anyone can kick things off.
Okay, I'll start naman, Melissa. So, it's interesting because, listen to your gut when it comes to relationships. Similar to what Melissa said about being an advocate for yourself at work, be an advocate for yourself in relationships. Now, many times our educational system tries to replace our intuitive self with logic. So many of us have experienced where, our gut told us to do X, but our logic said do Y. Well, we did Y, and pala X was correct. There's a reason we were gifted with intuition, and we don't use it as much. So even when it comes to the opposite sex or same sex, whichever partner you elect to have in life, make sure they deserve you. Don't settle. So I will have to say, my first marriage broke up. That's why I was a single mom. I had 4 years of marriage, 2 kids, and suddenly I needed to continue to have a career. I thought I would have 12 children and be a stay-at-home mom. Again, life has a way of throwing curveballs, right? So it's taking what life gives you. So like how did I become a single mom? I guess I explained there, right? I had my community. So many of you maybe in your 20s don't have an executive assistant, but who knows? There's lots of virtual assistants that are out there. My 21-year-old son in college is trying to figure out if he can hire his own virtual assistant. I'm thinking to myself, gosh, you haven't even finished college and you need a virtual assistant. But take whatever support you need to be able to do all the things you need to do in life. And then lastly, so important, the first and most important person you need to focus on is yourself. If you do not give yourself the proper me time every day, every week, whatever it is, then you're going to be useless to your family, useless to your children, useless to your company. So me, in the early stages of my life, actually till now, my me time that's quite sacred is my parlor. I go to the parlor. I've gone to the same parlor for a long time, and that's me, myself, with the people who just pamper me, who tell me all the latest chiz. The point is, that's sacred time to me. The same way, let's say, going to daily mass is a way for me to just re-energize. So find those me times and don't compromise on the me time, because unless you replenish the well, there's nothing that you can give. Melissa, over to you.
Thanks, Karen. No, I think it's interesting that you talk about me time and self-care, because that is so important. And I think when you're young, you think you have all the energy in the world and you can pay your dues, and later on you can harvest that. But actually you're tired. You just get tired. You don't have that endless supply of energy to harvest from later on. So it's really important to build a habit of self-care. Because nobody's going to tell you. Like I was telling you, your boss is not going to tell you, sleep more.
Right.
You're just going to be exhausted. And sometimes your boss is going to tell you, you're not delivering. Why is that? You have to be in a performance improvement plan. Guess what? You just need to sleep. And nobody's going to tell, no one's going to put that in your performance improvement plan. You just need to find the hours to do that. And it's not in your vocabulary anymore to sleep more. So you need to start doing that. right? You need to make it a habit to take care of yourself 8 hours, drink, exercise, basics. Develop the healthy habits now, because that's what's going to serve you in the long run. And nobody's going to build that into your system until you do that to yourself now. And then start building, because if you take care of yourself, other things are going to follow. Like you attract other people who are also healthy and will also take care of themselves, because like attracts like, right? Good people with good vibes and healthy vibes also come into your orbit. So if you take care of yourself, the right people also come into your life, right? So it's more of this kind of, things. And I think if you start taking care of yourself, your career, your family, then it's the allocation of time. What's important to you? And then the right things will come into play. You'll have time for the right people too.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen and Melissa.